I still remember the silence of the house after Helen's funeral. The air was heavy, every corner echoing with her absence. The walls felt foreign, the garden looked like a stranger's, and even my own reflection seemed like it belonged to someone I no longer knew. 2 weeks had passed since we laid her to rest, and already the phone calls began. Not calls of comfort, not voices offering support, but demands dressed as concern. The first was from my son, Mark. His voice carried the same impatience I had known since he was a teenager asking for money, only now he was 38 and he wasn't asking, he was insisting. He told me the house was too big, too costly, too impractical for a man alone. He said they had already found a buyer. He didn't know the mortgage had been paid off 6 years ago. Helen and I had kept that secret, choosing silence over explanations. When I told him, his laugh was sharp, dismissive, the laugh he inherited from me but used like a blade. I hung up, but the silence that followed was not peaceful. It was the silence of a battlefield after the first cannon fires, heavy with the knowledge that more was coming. I walked through the house, touching the edges of furniture that still held her fingerprints, pausing at the hallway mirror where her reflection used to brush past mine. The rooms seemed to lean inward, watching, as if the house itself knew I was about to be tested. Soon, Laura called. Her words were wrapped in false sweetness, suggesting I move into their basement, promising me my own space, a kitchenette, and privacy. She called it perfect, but perfect is not 4 walls underground. It was a basement dressed up as mercy, and I could hear the rehearsed cadence of their conversation, as if the decision had been made long before I was invited to take part in it. They said it was for my safety, for my practicality, but every word carried the weight of money. Tuition, mortgages, responsibilities, all theirs, never mine. I asked Laura when was the last time she called for something other than money. 2 months, she admitted by her silence. I had been sending Emily, my granddaughter, $500 a month for 2 years. Laura never told her. That was my first real glimpse of the truth. My children weren't circling me out of care, but out of calculation. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in Helen's study, the air still faintly touched by her perfume, lemon oil clinging to the desk she loved. My hand brushed against the bottom drawer, stiff from years of sticking. I opened it. Inside were tax returns, appliance manuals, stacks of forgotten letters. Beneath them, I found the folder, pale blue, tucked away as if it had been waiting for me. A sticky note in Helen's tidy block letters stared back at me. If you're reading this, you need to know what's inside. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first pages were financial statements from banks I had never heard of, accounts in her name alone. Small sums, scattered but deliberate. Then came the documents that stopped my breath. A deed to a villa in Portugal, purchased 10 years ago, with Helen's name alone. A letter from a law firm in Lisbon confirming its value, offering to manage it. In her handwriting across the margin, not yet. Keep private. At the back was a letter addressed to me. Her voice spilled across the page, calm, deliberate and certain. Richard, if you found this, the calls have already started. They will circle you, not because they need you, but because they want what you've built. The house is yours. It stays yours. I made sure of it. But I also knew they'd try to convince you otherwise. That's why there's a second plan. The villa. Sometimes the only way to win is not to play their game. I sat there, stunned. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone had orchestrated a safeguard, a second life, a secret escape, and she had trusted a woman named Anna. The note was simple. Trust Anna. She owes me her life. Long story. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen, looking at the garden. The rosemary leaned into the stone path, the lemon tree's branches heavy. Every leaf was a memory of her hands. But the garden no longer looked like grief. It looked like a message, a code I had been too blind to read. Helen had left me more than memories. She had left me direction.
I reached out to an old ally, Peter Alvarez, an attorney who had helped us once before. His office smelled of old books and confidence. He confirmed what Helen already knew. The house was mine, uncontested, paid in full, and untouchable without my consent. My children's attempts to sell it were nothing but air. He prepared letters, cease and desist notices, and filings to ensure that no one could claim authority over me. As he slid the papers across the table, I felt the balance of power shift. For the first time in weeks, I felt my spine straighten. But I kept my discoveries to myself. I didn't tell Mark or Laura about the blue folder, or about Portugal, or about Anna. I let them keep thinking they were in control, because sometimes silence is the sharpest tool. Saturday arrived with their visit. Mark, Laura, and Emily pulled into the driveway. I greeted them with tea in Helen's old mugs, calm and deliberate. Mark pushed hard, insisting the house was impractical, that I couldn't manage it. Laura leaned forward, eyes gleaming with false concern. They wanted logistics, signatures, and plans. I gave them none. I reminded them the house was paid for. I asked them questions they couldn't answer. Practical for me or for you? Burden for me or burden for your expectations? They squirmed. They grew restless. But I stayed silent where it mattered, letting them reveal their intentions in the spaces they couldn't control. That night, I wrote 2 columns on a yellow pad, what they know and what they don't. The first list was short. The second stretched far beyond the page. It included Portugal, Anna, and the letter Helen had left me. For the first time since her funeral, I felt not just grief, but resolve. The following week, I planned my own move, not to their basement, but into action. I began returning boxes of their childhood things, Mark's trophies, Laura's piano books, delivered to their doorsteps with notes written in my neat hand. I'm returning what belongs to you. I'm keeping what belongs to me. They were furious, bewildered, even hurt. But that was the point. I was teaching them the difference between possession and entitlement. Meanwhile, Lisbon responded. The law firm confirmed the villa could be transferred discreetly into my name, held in trust, hidden from the greedy eyes of my children. Anna's voice on the phone was warm, steady. She spoke of fresh linens, bowls of lemons, and a house waiting by the sea. Helen had prepared everything, and Anna was the keeper of her secret. For the first time since Helen's death, I felt not just grief, but resolve. I wasn't a man waiting to be managed. I was a man preparing the next act of his life.
My children tried again, this time with threats of conservatorship. Mark's voice turned sharp, hinting that they would take control legally if I didn't comply. But I had recorded every word, every threat, every hint of manipulation. Peter assured me the law was on my side. Incompetence could not be manufactured from disappointment. They mistook my silence for weakness, not realizing I was letting the rope coil in their own hands. The final confrontation came at my kitchen table. Mark and Laura sat across from me, faces tight with frustration. They accused, demanded, begged. I stayed calm. I told them plainly, the house is mine until I decide otherwise. If I move, it will be on my terms. I will support Emily directly, not through them. And any attempts to interfere will end that support entirely. Laura's eyes glistened with real emotion, but Mark's jaw clenched with anger. They wanted control. I wanted freedom, and freedom was mine to claim. That night, I packed a suitcase, socks, shirts, shaving kit, Helen's photograph from the beach, and the envelope from Lisbon. The key to the villa lay warm in my palm, a promise of another life. I cut lemons from the garden, set them in a bowl, and wrote reminders to myself. Lock the door, water the basil, leave keys with Joyce. Practical steps for a man stepping into something bigger. Laura came one last time, holding the box of piano books I had returned. She asked me, what do I want her to learn? I told her simply, keep what's yours. Stop asking others to store it for you. Don't confuse access with love. She carried the box down the steps without asking for help. For the first time, she understood. When I finally sent a message to Anna, I kept it short. Arriving soon, prepare the house as you would for Helen. Her reply came quickly. As you wish, Signor. Fresh linens, lemons in a bowl. We will wait for you. I stood in Helen's study one last time. The folder and the Lisbon envelope lay side by side, past and future pressed against each other, with me standing between them. I touched her glasses on the desk, the ones she left folded neatly over a book she never finished. For the first time, they didn't feel like relics of grief. They felt like instructions. And so I realized the truth. Revenge is not an explosion. It is a thermostat. You adjust the temperature until those who tried to control you mistake your calm for compliance. They think they are winning, but in reality, you are already gone. My children thought they could sell my life, but all they managed to do was return me to it. The house was mine. The villa was mine. The silence was mine. And soon, the horizon would be mine too. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not rage, not shouting, not proving them wrong in words. It is living on your own terms, while those who tried to claim your life are left with nothing but the echo of their own demands. I carried Helen's blue folder in one hand and the Lisbon envelope in the other. Past and future stacked neatly, with me standing in between. For the first time since her death, I wasn't waiting for life to happen to me. I was choosing. And when I closed the door behind me, I knew I wasn't walking away from anything. I was walking toward everything she had prepared for me. And with every step, the silence of the house shifted. It was no longer the silence of loss. It was the silence of a man who had already decided his next act and would not ask permission to live it. Thank you for being part of this journey. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and share your thoughts with me in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And when you're ready for another unforgettable story, the playlist is right here. Just click and keep listening.